Great. Hey everyone, Carly here from CBE. Excited for this meeting and to do, like Michaela said, some action items. Thank you to our co-chairs for being here and for your items suggested. So Ayanna Johnson, Mr. Charles Reed, and Michaela Patton. Welcome everyone. Thank you. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. So the meeting objectives for today, CSC members will leave with an understanding of the Air District's compliant policy and how to submit air quality complaints to the Air District. CSC members will revisit focus areas presented at the December CSC meeting and work together to further define focus areas. And lastly, CSC members will learn the proposed strategy framework and take the first steps in crafting objectives of the focus areas and strategies.
Great. Next slide, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm your co-chair, Mr. Charles, and I'd like to talk to you about our meeting agenda. So, of course, we had our welcome, our interpretation, and now I'm doing the agenda part. And then we'll have compliance and enforcement, which was, it took me 3 months to get this on the agenda because I really felt like this was important to us to make sure that community understood how they can get involved and track their involvement in the process because it's time for action. We've been doing too much talking. So now it's about the proposed strategy framework, presentation and discussion. Then we'll have a break for 10 minutes. Then we'll have our strategy development brainstorm. And then we'll have our next steps and close out. And I would appreciate you all being here at the end for announcements. Thank you.
Hi, Happy New Year's, everyone. This is your other co-chair, Ayanna Johnson. So let's get into these initial meeting agreements or notes for participation. Remember, one mic, one voice. Use raise hand function under reaction at the bottom of your screen. Grace for ourselves and one another. Take care of yourself. Make sure you stretch, you drink water, and don't forget to breathe. Community building on Zoom, so we're going to use the chat and reaction emojis to inspire and encourage one another. And for any questions throughout the meeting, please use the Zoom chat. CBE and BACMed staff will be responding to your questions, so let's get into it.
So before we hop into the bulk of the meeting, really excited because as y'all probably know, we've in the East Oakland process, we really want to make sure youth are represented and youth are at the forefront of this process of decision making, of strategy development. And a few of our youth seats were empty for quite some time. But yeah, Carly and I and the rest of the co-chairs worked a lot last year to do some recruitment as well with the Air District. And so we're going to be welcoming in Katie and Becca as our two newest youth CSC members. So yeah, they're going to introduce themselves. So Katie, do you want to start it off?
Yes, I can start it off. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Liang, and I am currently a junior at Oakland High. So I feel quite young here, but I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm excited to work with y'all.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, super exciting. Major props to doing this in high school. Becca?
Yeah, hey, I'm Becca, they, them pronouns. So I'm currently an undergrad at San Francisco State. I'm studying Africana Studies. I'm also a community organizer with people's programs. I also work as a lead storyteller with Hope Collaborative here in Oakland. And lastly, I'm an herbalist that owns an apothecary called Bantam Healing Apothecary. And I'm just having this business because I'm dedicated to healing all peoples holistically. But yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much. Hey, we got some smart people, y'all. Y'all better be ready for these organizers.
Exactly. Y'all already see what they're already into. So get ready for all these strategy development ideas. But I do want to say major shout out to y'all for joining because, you know, this process is not always accessible for youth, but this is something that we're actively changing right now. So super, super excited to have y'all. And I think I'll pass it back to Carly.
Thank you. Thanks, new youth, for giving intros. Very excited to have you here. Yeah, you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so now we'll have some time for community building. You can type into the chat your name, pronouns, any affiliated organizations, and a note to CSC members to please raise your hand if you're not able to type in the chat, and we'll have you speak aloud. Also note to anyone who's letting in people to this Zoom. I think Marina was saying that she's in the waiting room, if you could let her in. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I think Marina should be in now. If not, let me know. Great. Can we move to the next slide? Thank you.
Aquí estoy presente.
Thanks, Marina.
And Marina says she is here. I am here.
Awesome. Great. Alicia, could you run us through the timeline?
Yes, thanks, Masam. And hi, everyone. Good evening. This is Alicia Shah from the Air District. So wanted to present you this slide to show you our timeline for the East Oakland SERP and where we are in the plan process. We are currently in the winter of 2023, and today we'll be hearing about the proposed strategy framework, presentation, and brainstorm strategy development. It's an essential component required in the SERP. Also to note, we are currently working on updating our timeline to match where we are in the process. So we'll report back later this spring on schedule updates. And we also sent out an email to steering committee members with a link to a Google form poll where we want to hear from you on what topics you want to hear and learn about at future steering committee meetings. So please complete and submit this poll by 5 p.m. on Monday, February 12th. The co-leads and co-chairs will use the results of this poll to plan spring and summer CSC meeting agendas. Thanks. And I will pass it back to you, Masam, or our next presenter.
Great. Thanks, Alicia. Awesome. So next up, we have not Janet, Elmira, presenting the complaint response and investigation presentation.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Like Mom said, I'm stepping in for Janet tonight. My name is Elmira Van. I'm a supervising air quality specialist in the operations group in the compliance and enforcement division. So the goal of our presentation is to familiarize you all with our complaint policy and procedures and walk you through the steps of our complaint response and investigation process. Next slide, please. So what is an air quality complaint? Air quality complaint is any air quality concern that's reported to the air district pertaining to any ongoing air emissions release, any potential air contaminants, or any compliance concern with air quality laws. Next slide, please. So our program goals and objectives. The complaint program is one of the air district's key programs. The complaint program provides a way for members of the public to communicate their concerns to us, as they are often the first to become aware of the air quality issues. We take complaints very seriously and aim to respond to each complaint promptly and to identify and resolve air quality problems. We investigate every air pollution complaint received, conduct an inspection at the alleged site and potential sources of concern, and issue violations in the event that there are instances of non-compliance. Next slide, please. So these are the different types of air quality complaints. The most common that we receive are odors, dust or particulates, and residential wood smoke. But we also receive complaints alleging open burning, asbestos, gas stations, excessive idling, flaring, and complaints associated with major incidents. If we do receive complaints that are outside of our jurisdiction, we will refer those to the appropriate local regulatory agencies. Next slide, please. So how do you report an air quality complaint if you see an issue? So complaints can be reported two ways, either by phone or through our online complaint reporting system at the link that's listed on this slide. During our core business hours, we have dispatchers available to take the complaints. All calls received after business hours, however, and on weekends and holidays are received by a telephone answering service. We do have limited field staff available during after hours on standby to respond to major incidents. That said, all complaints are investigated, including complaints that come in after hours, which are promptly investigated the next business day if it is not related to a major incident. For people who wish to file an air quality complaint using a different language, you can call in the complaint by phone, and we have a language interpretation service available for over 150 languages. When filing a complaint, you can choose to do it anonymously without providing your personal contact information if you choose to. All anonymous complaints are investigated, and inspection is conducted at the alleged site. I would like to note, though, if you do choose to report a complaint anonymously, it's really important to provide as much details as possible so that an inspector has the information they need for their investigation, since they will not be able to contact you directly. We also understand that confidentiality is a concern, and we take it very seriously. The Air District does not share complainant information and keeps that information confidential to the fullest extent permitted by law. Next slide, please. So this is what the first page of our online complaint reporting form looks like on our website. Here you can start off by selecting the type of complaint you would like to report. And then the website will direct you to prompts to complete a form and submit the complaint. So when filing the complaint online, there will be several fields to fill out, such as providing the location where the emissions may be coming from. Fill out the required fields to the best of your ability. We know that sometimes it's not entirely possible. I would also like to note that prior to submitting your complaint, there is an option to let us know if you would like to receive a copy of your complaint report. If you check yes, you'll receive a copy of the inspector's report via email following the investigation. Next slide, please. When reporting a complaint to the Air District, it's important that you provide as much detail as you can, whether you're reporting a complaint online or via phone. One of the important pieces of information that helps us conduct our investigation is the name and address of potential alleged site or facility, so that the inspector can conduct an inspection at that location. If the name or address is not available, or if you don't know it, it's helpful just to include the closest intersection or landmark to where you observed the emission. When filing a complaint, the sooner the complaint is reported to us, the easier it is for us to identify the source of the emission. And also providing the date and time will also allow us to identify potential patterns of your air quality concern. The description of the air quality concern is also very important. If the inspector has provided very vague complaint descriptions, such as bad or terrible, it doesn't help determine what potential sources could be in the area. So we want the complaint to be as specific as possible when you're trying to describe the emission. So on this slide here, there's a odor wheel that provides, a guidance or ways to describe odors such as, burnt plastic, metallic, rotten egg, vinegar, things like that. By providing specific descriptions, this will help us better identify the source of the odor. In addition, noting the intensity and duration of the emission and possibly taking images or videos would also help us with our investigation. As mentioned before, you may choose to remain anonymous and you do not need to provide your personal information, although it is more helpful to our investigation if you do. And providing your personal information is encouraged because it allows inspectors to contact you directly to gather more additional information if needed. Next slide, please. So this slide is an overview of the general complaint investigation process. After the air district receives a complaint, the inspector promptly reviews the information provided by the complainant. The inspector will typically respond by reaching out to the complainant on phone to collect any additional information they may need. And then they will proceed with their investigation. The inspector then conducts an investigation and inspection at the alleged site or facility and documents their findings from their investigation. I'll describe what goes into the investigation in the following slides. Next slide, please. So the Air District receives a large number of complaints each year, and responding to and investigating every complaint is one of our highest priorities. We strive to respond to complaints within 30 minutes to the best of our ability. And we prioritize investigating complaints that have ongoing emissions because it's easier to pinpoint those sources of non-compliance and determine if a violation has occurred. In the event that we receive multiple complaints at the same time within the same geographic area, we have to prioritize our response. Our highest priority are complaints that have ongoing emissions and complaints that involve or affect schools, daycares, or senior centers. This is followed by complaints that do not have ongoing emissions. And complaints that report non-continuous emissions will be responded to in the order that they're received. Next slide, please. So the complaint response and investigation process. When the complaint is received by the Air District, then the inspector will first review the complaint information that's provided. This includes reviewing the details provided by the complainant and mapping the complainant's location. The inspector will then contact the complainant by phone to verify the provided information and gather additional information if needed. One important thing to note is that for anonymous complaints, we do not have information to contact the complainant, but we'll still do a full investigation. Next slide, please. When contacting the complainant, the inspector will ask to meet the complainant to observe the emissions together, especially if it's still ongoing. Although it's not required to meet in person, if the complainant is available to meet with the inspector will maintain the complainant's. We gotta go back one slide. Yeah, thank you. Where was I? So it's not required to meet in person, but if the complainant is available to meet and they're uncomfortable for some reason, it's possible for us to meet at a different location. For example, if a complainant reports a complaint against their neighbor, the inspector can arrange to meet with the complainant at a different location to maintain confidentiality. Like I said before, I'd like to emphasize that all personal information provided to us is confidential, whether it's information provided to the complaint in our reports or in person. As part of the investigation, the inspector documents their observations, such as the complainant's statements, also meteorological conditions, and also nearby sources of potential sources of emission. Also part of the investigation, the inspector also conducts an area patrol to try to trace the emission to a potential source. By doing an area patrol, the inspector can better pinpoint the source of emissions, rule out sources that are not the cause, and determine the Next slide.
Did we lose?
Oh, yeah, for a moment, but you're back, Maya.
I'm back. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. So the complaint investigation, if the complaint alleges a site or facility, then the inspector will also inspect the alleged site or facility. So this slide just highlights what happens during that process. The inspector meets with the facility owner operator to conduct an inspection of the facility's equipment and any source of air pollution to determine compliance with applicable rules and regulations. Then
I think we lost her again.
Yeah, let me check in.
Myra, if you hear us, can you turn your camera off?
am I back?
Yeah, you're back,
are.
but I might be better if you turn your camera off so that, you know, your internet
Okay.
connection can.
Yeah, it's weird because I could still hear you, so I just don't. Let me know if it happens again. I'll turn my camera off. Thank you. Okay. I'll just start over because I'm not sure when I dropped off on this slide, so we don't miss anything. So if there is a site or facility alleged, then the inspector will also do an inspection there. The inspector meets with the facility to conduct an inspection of the facility's equipment and sources of air pollution to determine compliance with applicable rules and regulations. The inspector will also determine if the hours of operation or production schedules align with the complaint occurrence date and time. During the inspection, the inspector also checks to see if there are any equipment breakdowns, malfunctions, or process upsets that could have had an air quality impact. The inspector also reviews operating records and notes meteorological conditions such as wind, direction, and speed. As you can see, the field investigation process is detailed and thorough, and we try our best to do our due diligence to identify violations and compliance issues. If the complainant did not allege a specific facility, the inspector may still try to identify other potential sources of emissions and proceed with a on-site inspection. Next slide, please. There are various factors that may influence the inspector's complaint response and investigation. This includes meteorological conditions such as wind, rain, and temperature. For example, wind direction may change after the complaint was reported to the air district, making it difficult to trace the emission source. Another factor is some emissions, especially odors, may be fleeting and disperse quickly. As I mentioned before, sometimes the operations of the facility may affect the sources and can lead the inspector to not being able to observe the emission because the operation may have stopped. Another factor is whether the complainant is still observing the emissions. Close to 40% of our complaints received state that the emission is no longer present at the time the complaint was reported. Complaints that are received on weekends or are received after business hours, where we have limited staff resources available, is also a factor. And sometimes we do receive complaints that are outside of the air district's jurisdiction, where the air district doesn't have the enforcement authority. In these cases, we refer complaints to specific agencies that do have jurisdiction. And the last factor we want to note is that inspectors may be conducting other investigations or inspections, or may be delayed due to traffic, as they are often unpredictable in the Bay Area. This can slow our response times. Next slide, please. So following a complaint investigation, the inspector will document the findings of their investigation. The inspector will document whether they observed the alleged emission at the time of the investigation and whether they were able to trace the emission to the specific site or facility. The inspector then notifies the alleged site or facility and complainant of the investigation results. During the course of a complaint investigation and inspection, the inspector will also document whether a violation of air quality regulations was discovered, and the findings are summarized in the inspector's complaint reports. If a violation is discovered, the inspector will take the appropriate enforcement action and issue a notice of violation to the facility. It's important for you to know that even though a complaint may not result in a violation being issued, the inspector will continue to monitor the area and use the complaint information as additional enforcement data points for compliance review and analysis. Next slide, please. So we have some tips for reporting an air quality complaint. These are a few key points I want to highlight. We have a helpful tips document on our website that you can refer to. That is where you can find the odor wheel that you saw on the previous slide. The tips will hopefully guide you through the information to provide information to better assist our inspectors with their investigation. It covers things like being more descriptive, pinpointing locations of the emissions, and taking photos and videos. The URL is also at the bottom of this slide. I'll also like to emphasize how important it is for communities to report the air quality complaints to the Air District. Community members are often the first to report air quality issues that require prompt investigations. It's important to report a complaint as soon as the emission is observed. The sooner the inspector can conduct an investigation, the greater the likelihood that the emission will be detected and traced to the source. And we encourage everyone here to share your knowledge regarding how to file a complaint to the Air District when they experience an air quality concern. Next slide. Oh, that's the end of our presentation. This is actually Janet's contact information that you can still use for contact information, I guess. With that, we can.
Thanks, Elmira. Yeah, I'll step in here. Thanks for that presentation. Hello, everyone. Anisha Rana with the Air District. I'm going to help facilitate the Q&A. We have until 6:50, so plenty of time to answer your questions. And I just wanted to say, as you all were probably aware during the last meeting, it became a little challenging to keep track of all of the questions that were coming through the chat. And so this evening we have staff that's been recording all of the questions that have come through the chat. We'll try to collect those and answer those in bulk towards the end of the Q&A. But for now, we're going to focus on taking questions from CSE members verbally. So if you have a question, I encourage you at this time to please raise your hand and I will call on you and you can unmute yourself and ask a question. First, I see Gabrielle.
Thanks. Can you please clarify? I already put the questions in the chat, but I'm wondering why asbestos is lower priority. And then I just wanted to make sure I had the number right. I believe somewhere in the slideshow, she said that a certain percentage were unverified or something like that of complaints. And I wanted to get that number again.
Hi, Gabrielle. Thanks for your questions. Yeah, on the slide, it was a 40%. 40% of the complaints that we received report air quality issues that were not currently occurring. So that makes it more challenging for our inspectors to pinpoint the source of the emissions. And for your other question regarding asbestos, I do apologize, that slide is slightly misleading because we had the priority numbers listed on there. we prioritize all ongoing complaints. So if there is an asbestos complaint that came in as ongoing, we would prioritize those ahead of any complaints that are not currently ongoing. I hope that answers both of your questions.
Next up, we have Miss Cecilia.
Yes, I wanted to ask, what is the percentage rate for the online complaining?
So how many complaints we receive online versus on the phone?
Online, how many complaints do y'all, what is the percentage rate? Online complaints do y'all receive? Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, thanks. That's a good question, actually. I don't have that statistic for you, but we can get back to you on that. We can look into our data. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Charles?
Yes, I was wondering if you guys are working with the health department to compile data equating hospital visits with historically high complaint areas.
That's a great question, Mr. Charles. I don't know off the top of my head. I wonder if Paul, I don't know if Paul's Gazzini is the area supervisor. I don't know if he's aware of any partnership like that.
So just in the interest of moving on, is that something that, because I think the CSC is responsible for like trying to build those kind of relationships, and for us to be able to look at different sources that equate to the reason why Black people die faster in East Oakland than anywhere else in the county.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid concern and something we can definitely look into. Thank you for your comments.
Thank
you. Shamar?
Where am I? Hey, what's up, everybody? I got two things. First, I'm not sure if it was quantified. I might have missed it, but the separation between the number of complaints that are submitted and the number of complaints that actually lead to a NOV, a notice of violation. I wasn't sure if that was like actually enumerated. And in general, I put this all in the chat, but I think it would be helpful to actually know when you're looking at those notice of violations, which of these were just kind of, over the counter, oh, you didn't file this paperwork and we noticed it and here's a fine that's insignificant. And which of these are actually like can be traced to a community member picking up the phone and actually calling. Because I mean, for a $250 million agency, 1,000 notices of violation per year doesn't seem like, I think the term a lot was used. So I'm wondering, like, why is that a lot? Like, is it that you don't have enough resources or staff, or what the disconnect is where that feels like an overwhelming number of complaints? Like, that's like $250,000 per complaint. So like, if you look at the whole overall budget, which obviously includes a lot of different things, at the end of the day, for every notice of violation, we're looking at $250,000 of infrastructure. And these are, $100 or a couple $1,000 fine violations. I'm kind of just wondering, like, sounds like we have an overwhelming number of community complaints that leads to a pretty mediocre number of actual violation notices, which at the end of the day are just write-offs. And, we wouldn't be here if they were having a significant impact on improving air quality in communities like East Oakland. And then to the other point, it seems like every time we talk about the complaint procedure, it's so annoying that it sounds like, frankly, complaints from highly paid public agency staff saying like, man, why is the community so bad at submitting these complaints? Like, why aren't they giving us the details we need? Why are they giving us stuff that we don't need? Why are they frankly complaining about things that are outside of our purview? And for me, it comes down to form design or intake design, whether it's, the script that the person on the phone is using when you call them, or when you go on to the website. I saw an incredible suggestion from someone. Oakland's had 311 for years, obviously doesn't work very well for the city of Oakland. Communities like East Oakland still look like crap, but it's an easy thing for them to point to, like, hey, we made this tool that makes it really easy for you guys to complain about these things. And so, when I hear highly paid, highly educated, highly qualified staff being like, man, why are these basic ass residents who smell something not giving us the information they need when they notice something? It seems to me like, why aren't these highly educated professionals coming up with better mechanisms to collect that information? Like, you send a form out, it's immediately apparent if that form isn't collecting the data that you actually need. The private sector does this really well. I know that the nonprofit and government sector likes to collect data that makes them look good and good metrics. But like, if we're talking about actually at the end of the day, not continuing to get money to improve air quality for those poor people in East Oakland, and actually just improving it, calling it a day and moving on to something else, that's a priority. I'd love to hear more about like what we're actually doing, because this is not show and tell for backmud for 60 years of failure. It's how do we move on, next steps, keep going to improve the situation going forward. So thanks for the presentation. Hoping we can get to the meat.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. You make a lot of really good points here. I was trying to find a good response for you. I mean, we're here at these meetings, we're trying to partner with the community to do better. We do have a project in development. We're reaching out to the local libraries in the Bay Area and providing, our pamphlets for information regarding the air district and also our complaint process. So there's definitely increased in efforts for community outreach and putting the word out there on how to file a complaint and how to reach us. And we're here at these meetings. We want to hear from you all on how to improve and get your feedback with the work we're doing and the partnership here. And your feedback is definitely very valuable to us. And to address your comment about number of NOVs issued relative to the number of complaints, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but that's definitely, we can look at that and get the percentage and get back to you on that. In terms of your comments around penalties, I can't speak to that. That's for our legal division to speak to. So I hope that addresses some of your comments.
Okay, next up we have, I see Mr. Charles, your hand is up again.
Yes, and this is about the legal fees. And to be honest, it should have been apparent that this question might come up amongst intelligent community members. And so that person should have been here to talk to us, because I want to know if you guys are investigating policy changes that allows the agency to impose retroactive fines on notorious violators. And it's in order to reinvest that money in the communities that were impacted. See, because this is about policy change. And so there should be a way for you to say, well, you know what? They've been getting away with operating for all these years and never been fined, even though we didn't send them notices and everything else. So from now on, we're going to put in this on our policy a way that if we didn't told you, I don't know how many times to stop operating, now we could charge you extra and we can reinvest that money into the community. Because if we're talking about equity, I really believe equity should be defined through the eyes of the community, and that's why we're here. And so we're looking at new solutions to historical problems. And so I'm hoping that policy change and an investment in a real investment in the community is what we start talking about.
Yeah, Mr. Charles, we actually do have an attorney present who can address your concerns. Misha, jump in.
Yeah, I can jump in. Thank you, Mr. Charles, for those comments. Yeah, I mean, if I'm being quite honest, we are moving forward to, we are being a lot more aggressive with the fines that we are collecting. And ever since the creation of these AB 617 communities, that is a factor that we weigh in our penalty amounts. I also want everyone to understand that we are, it's not like sky is the limit on penalty amounts. There are certain factors that we have to, that we're required by statute to look at in coming to a penalty amount. And so, and also there is a legislatively determined amount, a daily maximum amount that we can impose on these facilities, these sources. So there's a lot of factors that go into these penalty amounts. We are hoping that, and we're not just hoping, but we are doing this with all of the AB 617 communities. We want to work with you so we can, not only identify problematic facilities in your community, but we want to hear feedback from you as to how, once we issue a violation to these facilities, we can get, any penalty money back into the community. And we want to hear from you how you would want that money put back and be used in your community. And I think, for example, the Argent tour, that was a really, that post discussion, it was really helpful in identifying like community wants moving forward, more investment in specific areas of the community, right? So we want to continue that dialogue. We're all ears, and it is something that I think in the past, it's not something that I think a lot of air districts, quite frankly, considered in their penalty resolutions of violation notices. But moving forward, we definitely want to include community input in how these fines are distributed.
And next up, we have Marina. If you'd like to come on off mute.
Sí, aquí estoy, ¿ya? ¿Están listos?
Yes.
Sí, mi comentario es,
My comment, my question is this: how do you monitor the inspectors so they do their job well? And I also wanted to know how many complaints are not, how many complaints are of things that are not in order, and how many are?
So, yeah, thank you for your question, Marina. So every complaint that is reported to the Air District, we do have a data collection system, and inspectors are held accountable. We know exactly which complaint is assigned to which inspector, and we also track the status of each complaint. So no complaint goes uninvestigated. We address every complaint, and we do have the statistics and data for each inspector as well. Your second question, I'm not sure if I quite understand. Is it complaints that come in that result in violations? Is that the question?
sí, esa es exactamente.
Yes, that's exactly my question.
Okay, thank you. I don't have the statistics in front of me, the data in front of me. I believe we may have presented it in the last CSC meeting, but we can look that up and get back to you.
Sí, quiero mencionar algo
Okay,
más.
I want to mention something else.
Tenemos que ver, ¿verdad?
We have to see
Que sí en verdad sean supervisadas
if
nuestras
they're really supervising our plants, manufacturing plants, because many times we have factories that are very hidden that the community doesn't know about, that the community doesn't know what's going on inside, what they're doing,
qué actividad se está
what activities are being done.
fábrica o esa
And if that factory or
compañía
or that company, if they're polluting our environment, and many times they're not supervised because they're so hidden. They're like businesses that are almost inside where the community can't even see them. And the community doesn't say anything because we don't know, because we're blind to it. We don't see. We simply smell all that pollution, all that damage that it's not affecting them, but it is affecting us as a community. I'm being affected as a member of the community, and everyone in our area in East Oakland are being affected. There's a lot of asthma, a lot of things, and let's do something. All of us. Let's get together to do something and change in our community, because we've been working for years, and now I think we need to give bigger steps to change East Oakland. I'm glad that we're all here as members of this community, as members of all these agencies, but yeah, we have to work hard, because I've done it working hard here. We've found studies, and now we need to find more studies and to study things deeply. We don't want any more diseases for our children. No more asthma that's not allowing them to live and to breathe. Honestly, it's frustrating. I feel bad. I feel angry, because we want clean air for our children. My daughters have asthma. I have allergies. I want to understand how we feel with everything that's going on in our area. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Marina. Thanks, Elmira, for answering questions. Unfortunately, we're at the end of the Q&A. We have recorded the questions that have come through the chat. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get to those, but we will respond after the meeting to all of them. With that, let me pass it back to our facilitators.
Awesome. Thanks, Anish. Can we have the next slide? Thank you. So now we have the proposed strategy framework that Alicia and Carly are going to talk about.
Great, yeah, thanks, Masam. Thanks for everyone for sharing your thoughts. Really valuable hearing community's input and feedback, so thank you all. But yeah, moving on to this section, we are excited to go over the proposed strategy framework and do a breakout activity with you all for different areas, for different focus areas tonight. And I'll be presenting this section with Alicia from BACMed. Let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So in our November CSC meeting, we discussed focus areas and their role in shaping strategy development. Focus areas are the file system we're using to organize the strategies, and we want to build out focus areas to describe the problems, and we want to build out strategies to identify the solutions to these problems. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So here, the focus areas and strategies will be aligned with the vision statement and principles and the work we will do to draft the plan level goals. Where do the focus areas sit within the East Oakland AB 617 process? The focus areas in the SERP are tools that help organize different strategies. The vision and principles capture these shared aspirations and values for the future of East Oakland, while focus areas and strategies outline the specific actions needed to turn that vision into reality. The focus areas should align with the vision statement and principles set by the steering committee and the work we will do to draft the plan goals. Thank you. You can move to the next slide. Thanks. Yeah, so back in the December meeting, there was some feedback from community members on what was missing within different focus areas. So the 5 focus areas we have on the right here in dark green. And when we asked what was missing, we heard from CSC members that these 3 items on the left in light green were missing, and that is workforce development, enforcement, and green infrastructure. So these three themes can fit into multiple focus areas, right? And we propose to weave them into strategies to address focus area concerns. All right, you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So here, yeah, we want to get on the same page about how the CSC defines certain focus areas, and in particular, how do we define public health and community wellness, and how do we define built environment and land use? So yeah, these are things to think about. And, you know, if there are other focus areas that people want defined, you know, we could definitely do that too. But in particular, we want to focus on the public health and community wellness, and also the environment and land use. Just because, yeah, the rest of the focus areas are a bit straightforward, but again, we can totally define those as well. And yeah, we'll be brainstorming and the activity later in the meeting as an opportunity to draw from our knowledge and help us define these focus areas. And now I'll pass it to Alicia, and she can elaborate more on this.
Great. Thank you, Carly. So as Carly mentioned, we would like to introduce a proposed focus area and strategy approach. Our goal here is to elaborate on these focus areas. We want to describe the issues and start brainstorming strategies to address them. So in doing that, we want to develop focus area and strategy statements where we will start with the community concern, include what we know from information we gathered, state the consequences, and desired outcome. Next slide, please. So we will be using a similar method inspired by a successful approach used in the Richmond Path to Clean Air SERP, where building blocks were employed to craft focus area statements in the Mad Lib format, which I'll show you in a few slides. So this slide helps to define what will make up these building blocks. This approach involves identifying concerns as highlighted by the community so that they are based in community priorities. It includes what we know by utilizing technical and complaint information and communities' insights from past steering committee meetings and as we continue steering committee meetings, and outlining the consequences. So this is the risk to community and sensitive groups that are nearby pollutants of concern, and also includes health and demographic information. Next slide, please. We also want to take the initial steps in creating strategy statements, which will help to connect the focus area statements to strategies and actions to address identified community concerns. This explains what each strategy aims to achieve and the desired outcome of the strategy. Next slide, please. So this slide will show the building blocks, resources to help fill in the statements. So what is the concern, which is identified by steering committee and community? What do we know? This is data from the technical assessment presentation, where we heard from our assessment inventory and modeling team on the emissions inventory, and information from our compliance and enforcement team on complaints and violations. These provide information about pollution and sources that support the development of strategies and actions. What is the consequence? Includes information coming from the community mapping presentation, which helps us understand the air pollution concerns that are most important to the community and the risks to people. And we also heard from Alameda County Public Health on health inequities, on the health impact, and demographic information about the East Oakland community. What is the solution will be identified by the steering committee, the community, the co-leads, and agency partners. Next slide, please. So this slide shows how it all comes together. Here is the Mad Lib statement to help craft the focus area and strategy statements. A Mad Lib statement is a sentence where certain words are intentionally left blank, and participants will fill in the blanks with their own words. Right here, these blanks are noted in green. So blank is where you insert what is the concern. Is the concern because blank, what do we know, which impacts blank. You insert what is the consequence, who is affected, and what does it mean. If the concern is addressed, the outcome looks like blank, and that's where you insert what the solution is, the desired outcome of the strategy. So we will have an opportunity to brainstorm and create a Mad Lib together in our breakout activity later today. Next slide, please. And wanted to present a couple of examples here. So the next two slides will show examples of the Mad Lib statements. So here's an example for the commercial and industrial sources. So aggregate facilities, these are facilities that have outdoor stockpiles of bulk material. Aggregate facilities is a concern because their stockpiles produce fugitive dust with PM 2.5, fine particulate matter, which impacts lung disease and other health impacts on people living and working nearby. If the concern is addressed, the outcome looks like implementing improved dust suppression measures. Next slide, please. So here's an example for the transportation and mobile sources. Road dust caused by traffic from warehouses and logistics centers is a concern because truck traffic contributes to fugitive particulate matter emissions, which impacts respiratory and cardiovascular health of people living and working nearby. If the concern is addressed, the outcome looks like more frequent street sweeping to reduce visible dust and fugitive particulate matter emissions. So I wanted to pause here before I take us to wanted to pause here. That's our part of the presentation, and here if there's any questions that Carly and I or others can answer. Mr. Charles, I see your hand up. I'm gonna pass it to you.
Yeah, I was, so if we looking at this as a strategy, could we use the existing health data that the health department gave to us? Could we use that and equate it with the high impact complaint areas and hospital visits? And because that data already exists. And so could we start looking at that data and seeing where it compares to high impacted areas?
Great question. I like your approach. You're bringing together a lot of the information that we've gathered here and seeing patterns and alignment with areas that are highly impacted. So that's definitely a great approach that talks about what we know and leads into what are the consequences and who are affected. So great idea. Any other ideas or questions? Marina, I see
Marina
your
raised-
hand. Yeah, thank you. I can pass it to you, Marina.
Yeah.
that. Yes, yes. I'm looking at all of these strategies that are being presented. And you are saying that the dust is impacting us, that 2.5 that you use, that's one of the consequences. And we see that those emissions are impacting our health. This is my question. Are you looking at detecting all of these fugitive particulate matters? And are you doing studies for the freeways? All of the cars that are passing, I live a couple of houses down from 80, and I am filled by dust every single day. I want to see if something is going to be done or placed to identify that pollution more and how the community is being impacted. I'm looking especially at freeways because I live so close to one. I would like to know if this that we are discussing is aligned with that.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Marina, for your comment and question. So yeah, all of your experience and what you see within your neighborhood and along the freeways is what we need to hear. We need to hear more about what your concerns are and what you know about those concerns. And so we are building out these focus area statements so that we can better identify and describe your concerns that are priorities for you within the community and start to look at how we bring solutions to those. And so that's where the solution statement is. So, if those concerns were addressed, what would those outcomes look like? And then when we build out those solutions, then we can start to develop with you all strategies and actions to address those concerns. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, that is fine.
Great. Thank you. And I will pass it to Gabrielle.
Okay. I'm gonna actually withdraw for now because I might have misinterpreted the slide, so sorry.
No worries. So we have a couple minutes left for questions or any comments before we go to break, but there will be instructions for the breakout activity and what we'll be working on today, and further instructions as we go into the breakout groups to kind of set up this exercise for us to all work on focus area and strategy statements as a Mad Lib approach. Gabrielle, I still see your hand up if you saw the question, and then Cynthia, and then perhaps we can go to break.
Yeah, just really quick. I'm looking at this example, and I would like to see these Mad Libs use more like maybe not quantifiable language, but impacts respiratory and cardiovascular health of people living and working in nearby is very vague. It doesn't actually capture the impact. It's kind of, the impact is that a certain number of people are going to die. And I think that, you know, I would like to see the language actually reflect in a way that shows the impact, and not sort of, you know, hide behind sort of vague and euphemistic language.
Yeah, thanks, Gabrielle, for that. We do want information to support these strategies so that they're actionable, and specificity is what we're looking for from you all with your experience within the community. And then we will support that with the technical information that we've heard from past steering committee members, and then also as we continue to you know, develop and work into strategy development.
Sorry, I'm just gonna cut in here real quick. It is 7:10, and I really want to make sure that we get to our break, Mr. Charles, if you don't mind, bringing up your question maybe when we come back or something. But I do want to prioritize that because there are times where we haven't been on time for break, and I really want to make sure everybody gets their break. So thank you for understanding, and we'll go to break.
Great, thanks, Carly. We'll take a 10-minute break and be back at 7:20. Thanks, everyone.
Spend it on the have-nots. Money, we make it. Before we see it, you take it. Oh, make me wanna holler the way they do my life. Yeah. Make me wanna holler the way they do my life. This ain't living, this ain't living. No, no, baby, this ain't living. No, 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 no. Inflation, no chance to increase finance. Bills pile up, sky high. Send that boy off to die. Oh, make me wanna holler the way they do my life. Yeah, make me wanna holler the way they do my life. Oh, everybody thinks we're wrong. But mother, who are they to judge us? Mother, mother, simply cause we wear our hair long. Mother, mother, ooh.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Hope you all had a nice break. We're gonna move into our breakout room section, but first, Alicia and Carly have some instructions, I believe.
Thanks, Massam. Angie, can I get the next slide? Thank you. So yeah, welcome back from break. We have a very fun and actionable activity for you all. So we are going to transition into an activity where we are going to fill out and create these Mad Lib statements. So as I mentioned, a Mad Lib statement is a sentence with certain words intentionally left blank, and participants fill in the blanks with their own words. There will be 5 rooms, including the main Zoom room. The CSC members and members of the public will be assigned into rooms. Anyone requiring translation must stay in the main Zoom room. We used feedback from December's steering committee meeting question about what focus areas you're most drawn to help with steering committee member assignment. Participants will be working on virtual Jamboards to brainstorm and fill out the Mad Lib statements, as well as be given access to statement resources to help fill out those statements. Those resources were also sent out to CSC members along with meeting materials prior to this meeting. The activity will be about 30 minutes, and there will be Air District staff to help facilitate, and Air District, CBE, and agency staff available to answer questions. After the breakout groups activity, we'll come back to the main room where CSC members will share a Mad Lib statement or where the group landed in the process. So I will pass it to Masam to get us broken out into groups.
Thanks, Alicia. All right, so in a minute, I'm going to open the breakout rooms. Folks should get an invite to join particular ones. If you do not receive an invite, that means you're supposed to stay in this room. Please let me know if anyone struggles. Thank you.
Me voy a quedar yo aquí en esta sala, dijeron, ¿no?
I'm going to stay in this main room, right?
Yes, that's correct, Marina. Let me just ensure that everybody is here. Hold on. Actually, Marina, could you join the built environment room?
Yes, I can go there. And Gigi will stay here.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Marina should be going to the built environment room. Angie, are you still in this room?
And Maria came back because Gigi was in the other room, and I figure Marina needs interpretation.
Yeah, so Maria, I'm sorry for the confusion. both of you, you and Marina, able to join the built environment room? Do you think you could tell Marina to do that?
Okay, I will. Yes, I was confused because Gigi went there.
Entra a la sección, ¿va? Okay. Okay.
And so I will go there too if I get that invite. This is Maria.
Okay, Maria, let me. Oh, hold on. I think you should have an invite. Maria, are you able to join the room?
I'm not getting an invite.
Okay, sorry, let me try again. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, and Gigi is texting me because she's not interpreter anymore in the other room.
Okay, let's try this again. Let's have everyone in the built environment room come back to the main room. Because interpretation is being weird. So can you
Yep.
just stay here and I'll just send a message.
Yes, I'll stay here. And I'm going to text Gigi to come back in here or stay where she's at because we need Marina.
Hold
We
on,
need
let
Marina.
her stay and she needs to tell Marina to come back.
Okay.
Hold on.
Are you able to
Hey
see us?
everyone. Hi everyone. I'm so sorry. There was just something off with the breakout rooms. We have to ensure that Marina and the interpreter stay in the main room. So I hope everyone's able to leave that breakout room and come back to the main room. I'm really sorry for the interruption.
No problem. I think Marina and Gigi were in the breakout room figuring out how to come back to the main room. I think, Esther, you were introducing yourself and you passed it to Marina. Colin Pieth is also here.
Colin, I think, is struggling with audio because it seems like he's not able to connect.
Okay, are there any other CSE members or community members who haven't introduced themselves? All right. No, in the interest of time, thank you all for introducing yourself and being a little silly with me. In the interest of time, oh, Marina's back.
Great.
Marina, if the interpretation is working now, would you like to introduce yourself by saying your name, your pronouns, and a color to describe how you're feeling?
¿Sí está aquí usted? Okay.
Maria, we can't hear you.
I was talking with her and giving her the
sorry.
instruction. Good evening. My name is Marina, and my color that describes me is hope.
I like that. Thank you, Marina. All right, well, thank you, everyone. I just want to do a quick couple of housekeeping items. We need a volunteer to report back to the large group. This could be sharing a Mad Lib that stood out to you, or just some takeaway around where our group landed in the exercise. Is there anyone who would like to volunteer? And we don't have to decide now. I can ask again before we end.
Well, if anybody doesn't want to go, I'll go ahead.
All right, thank you, Ayana.
Absolutely.
So another housekeeping item, I'm gonna drop a few links in the chat. The first link is to the Jamboard that we are gonna be using to brainstorm and create the focus area and strategy statements. And the second link is a resource folder with the links with slides from previous presentations. For example, on compliance and enforcement, on the results of the community mapping project, and the presentation on health inequities from the public health department. So you can lean on these presentations as you create your own Mad Libs or as we brainstorm together as a group. Let me go ahead and drop that in the chat. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now. So this is a good time if you want to open up those links and if you'd like to follow along. Okay, can everybody see the Jamboard?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So yeah, let's begin with the purpose of today's activity. Our goal is to create statements that describe community concerns within the focus areas. So in this case, the built environment and land use. And then to also begin brainstorming strategies or solutions to address them. So how we're going to do this is by using Mad Libs, which I know many of you are familiar with. And but in case you're not, a Mad Lib is a sentence where certain words are left blank. And so our Mad Lib will have 4 blanks that we need to fill out. The concern, what we know about the concern, the consequence or who is affected and what is the impact, and then the solution or the desired outcome. So let's get into it. Sorry, I cannot see. One moment. Okay, there we go. So let's start with the concerns. Here are some of the concerns we heard from you about the built environment and land use. So for example, the need for more urban greening, the need to have buffer zones between industrial areas and residential zones, the impact of past land use decisions, and then the proximity of polluting facilities to schools, community gardens, and other like sensitive receptors, the community engagement practices, the need for affordable housing, evictions, and indoor air quality. Are there other concerns that you'd like to add at this point? And feel free to add them in the chat.
Yeah, can I say it verbally?
Yep, verbally as well.
I'm thinking about mitigation. I thinking about the sea level rise in preparation for that. The resilient hubs that are needed to be prepared for the flooding, adding the Resilience Hub for the wildfires and such.
Thank you, Esther. And I know Allison is adding those concerns to our board. Carol?
Hi, yeah, I would say the need for more community services, whether they are organizations like nonprofits, but also businesses, small businesses that would allow people who live here to either have their businesses, work and live nearby, and bring money into, bring revenue into the community.
Thank you, Carol. Ayana and then Ms. Cunningham.
Hi, yes. I would also have to say that there is no pre-planning regarding emergencies like earthquake, natural disasters, things of that sort that could cause air pollution. We're not prepared for that. So, getting protocols ready for like emergency disasters, like we're not organized and ready if something did happen right now. We don't have any, we don't have anything organized. So, it's a resiliency hub.
Mhm. Like disaster preparedness.
There you go.
Okay. Mrs. Cunningham?
We need to improve our access to healthcare, supportive services, and vulnerable groups.
That's important. Access to healthcare, especially for vulnerable groups.
And yes, exactly.
Thank you, Miss Cecilia. Great, thank you. And we're gonna go back to these concerns. I just wanna walk us through the rest of the exercise. So the next section is what do we know? And at this point, I wanna remind us that we have presentations in the folder that we can lean on to remember some of the information our various speakers have provided that is relevant to East Oakland and the SERP. And Marina, did you want to add something or have a question?
I wanted to add something. It's true that we should have places when there's a disaster. Here on my street, there were some apartments that burned down and people were homeless because there wasn't an adequate place for those individuals that ended up homeless. Because when we go through difficult times, we don't know where to go to or where to turn.
More information about resources in case of a disaster like a fire? Or as part of a quick response, right? Being able to like house people who lose their home because of a fire. Okay. Thank you, Marina.
Sí, y también, sí, y más
Yes, and more information as to where to go, because some say Red Cross. Go to Red Cross because, or who can help to pay for the hotel or for housing, if there can be those kind of reasons.
So I'm gonna move us on because I really want us to give you guys the time to actually write the Mad Lib statements and do more of this brainstorming. So as I was saying, you can feel free. We have these presentations as a resource. You can feel free to look at them and pull out pieces of information that you think are important to help us better understand the problem or the impact it has on East Oakland. And then I also want to encourage you to use what you already know, through your experience living in East Oakland and the knowledge you have about your neighborhood as a source to answer these questions. As answer the question about what we know and also what is the consequence. And if it feels helpful to, if it feels helpful, pull out the presentations and reference them. And I also want to remind you that we have staff available from the Air District, from the city, to answer, specific questions you might have about a policy or data or services. So okay, so
Deanna, sorry, can I just pause you real quick and ask you if you're in the correct interpretation channel? Are you in the English channel?
Because I can't hear it either. I just keep getting Spanish.
Are you able to go to the English channel? It's by clicking the more button if it's not already on your bottom tab and clicking on English.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to check if everyone was in the correct channel. I mean, in their appropriate language channel. Carol, did it work for you?
You know what? I changed it when we first came into the room, and it didn't do it, and so I went back like 4 minutes ago, and it still wouldn't go. It's okay. I can mostly understand what she's saying, so it's okay.
Okay, I can try to troubleshoot with you later. But thank you for your patience. Okay, Deanna, sorry, go back to what you were saying.
No problem. So as I was saying, we have the presentations in the resource folder, and also want to encourage everybody to use what you already know, and remind everyone that we have staff from the Air District and the City of Oakland to answer questions about, data or policies or services that you might have. So here's, you've seen this. This is the template for the Mad Lib, the 4 questions that we want to answer. Here's another example of a Mad Lib for the built environment. I'll read it out loud so there's a sense of what it says. Access to green spaces and parks in natural areas is a concern because there are few of them in East Oakland, which impacts the mental health of residents who lack access to clean and well-maintained green spaces for outdoor activities. And if the concern is addressed, the outcome could look like helping to put into action policy in the EJ element by working with local community organizations to find, fund, create, and maintain green infrastructure projects in East Oakland. So that's an example of what that Mad Lib could look like. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip this other example. But you can go back to it and reference it if you like. I'm going to stop here for questions before we jump into the activity.
How much time do we have for this?
Masam, can you tell us how much time we have, please?
Yeah, we have around 8 minutes. It's not too much, but yeah, around 8 minutes.
Yikes. Okay.
How about we take one of the things we already put on sticky note that we already discussed and break it down?
Yes.
That'll save us a lot of time.
Let's go back to our concerns. Out of all of the concerns that we've added, which one would the group like to work on?
Affordable housing.
Let's take affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So our concern is affordable housing. What do we know about affordable housing? What do you know about affordable housing?
That it saves you money on your bills, relieves financial stress.
Save money on bills, relieve financial stress. Carol?
Provides people the ability to, I guess, worry about one less thing so that they can focus on family, education, jobs.
Thank you. Marina?
Sí, hablando sobre
Yes, talking about affordable housing, I think that's it's an important step that we need. Mainly people of low income people. Yes, housing is too expensive. We don't have enough money to pay our bills. So if we had like affordable housing for people, low income people, we would be able to, I mean, we have to be able to live without so many worries, without so much pressure, because that puts a lot of pressure on us and it takes us to be stressed. And we can also save money so we can buy our own homes. So that's something. More money for food, because right now we don't even have enough for food.
Thank you, Marina. I think you also mentioned an impact, which was stress. Janina, you have the floor.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that there is a lack of affordable housing being one of the main things we know. And lack of new affordable housing being built on a large scale.
Okay. What about some of the consequences? And I mean, feel free to go back to what we know, but what is some of the consequences? Mrs. Cecilia?
Yes, one of the consequences that with affordable housing, we will be able to buy the properly foods we need to eat. Because we have a lot of people right now not able to even purchase food.
Impacts.
So impacts your health.
That's right, your health. That's
Access to healthy food.
right.
Esther?
Yeah, along with the lack of affordable housing is that we know that the city and the county is not properly taking care of the funds that are allocated for housing, affordable housing. And what is the consequences is that we see a lot of homeless people outside, houseless people, humans, animals, because of the lack of affordable housing. And actually because of the push out that happened some years ago. We see a lot of Black folks still in the neighborhood. I guess this goes with the housing, still in neighborhoods of where their family home was, just displaced. We also see a lot of people that's not from Oakland that got sent here from other cities.
Thank you, Esther. How about let's move on maybe to some solutions. And I, feel free to share also to answer other questions, but what are some solutions that you have in mind, or what is the desired outcome?
More affordable housing that allows people to have a stepping stone to home ownership. That actually, I guess that's one thing. Another thing would be funding for affordable housing. Right now, there's not. It costs like $60,000 just to build one unit of affordable housing, and all the fees to actually buy the land and get everything entitled and then build it. It's impossible for people to even for the nonprofits that are out there to build and then actually make it to a level that's affordable. So we need more subsidies to allow to get to not just low income, but like very low income. Because right now, low income in the Bay Area is someone who makes $100,000. That's not anything close to what a homeless person is where they are. So we got to go deep, deep, deep down below that.
Thank you, Carol. Miss Cecilia?
Yes.
Did you have a solution you want to contribute or answer?
Yeah. We need more programs that needs to be allocated for low income.
More programs.
Yeah, we need more programs. allocated to the affordable housing.
What type of programs do you have in mind?
For
Mrs.
instance,
Ellie?
like the energy bills.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Celia, but I even run a program and it assists people with rent and utilities.
Mhm.
And there's no resources. People don't know this program is out there.
Amen.
And so they don't have access to the resources that are already out there.
Mhm. I agree. Mhm.
That's another potential solution or
Yeah.
part of the solution, making it more
And
existing
we
resources.
need more media. We need more media brought out about affordable housing and these different programs that's out there, so the people in the community would know who to contact for what. And that's important.
Thank you, Mrs. Cunningham. I did get the 2-minute notice that we're going back to the main room. I want to just encourage you all. They're going to share a Google form. So I want to encourage you to continue doing this brainstorming. And I'm really sorry that we didn't get to do more. The next step would be to, use some of this information that you brainstormed to create a Mad Lib. And yeah, I just want to encourage you to, use some of our time in the meeting to add your own. And Marina, did you have a question?
Sí, a mí me gustaría,
Yes,
¿verdad?
I would like to have the opportunity to learn about that program, a program where you work so many hours and you work for your house. I would like to integrate this program so for everyone, because honestly, there's a lot of people of low income people that we don't have a roof over our heads. And I would like that in programs that where they wouldn't ask, for example, like they ask us immigrants that just to go into the housing and all that, they ask for a social security number. And so they can give you that help. That's why a lot of people are also are living in the streets as
Le den a uno una oportunidad.
an opportunity being immigrants.
Thank you, Marina. And I think, do we still have time maybe to walk through one of the Mad Libs?
Folks are going to start
should.
coming back now.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe just a share our time. Sorry for the
Okay.
limited time.
Ayana, are you able to report out for us?
Yes, I was just going to do the first one, which was affordable housing.
That's great.
Okay. We don't really have a lot of time. We got 6 minutes before close. So I'm gonna make it quick.
Yeah.
Well, this is a lot of rich discussion around the issue of affordable housing. And so the next step in this process would be, we have like our concern here is affordable housing. And then let's pick one thing that we know out of all of these stickies. Maybe just someone shout it out.
Diana, I also want to point out that everyone's back in the main room now. And if, we're ready to share out, that would be great.
Great.
Thanks. So will Carly facilitate that?
Yes, I can. Yeah, Ayana, did you want to go ahead and share? Thanks, Masam.
Carly, you can go ahead because I got to close out.
Oh, okay. Did anyone else on the team want to report out from that group?
Unless you want me to do both, I can. But I was trying to give somebody a chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get it. Any takers? If not, I think we should move to another group. Whoever is ready. If you would like to do the report out for your group, that would be great.
If not, I'll go.
Take it away, Ayana.
Okay. So are they gonna take us back into the room?
Ayana, we're already in the main room. I think the ask is to share out briefly what we discussed around affordable housing and the built environment.
Okay, so the concern was affordable housing for our group. Basically because it is causing stress in the community because it's hard to find a place to stay without paying $1 billion for it or jumping through hoops, which impacts like your health because of stress. And, you know, there's no access to resources or programs. So if the concern is addressed, the outcome looks like the community having less stress, less crime, less oppression. So that was what our group focused on.
Great, thanks, Ayana. Anyone from commercial and industrial sources want to go really quick?
Yeah, I can read ours. So we actually focused on the Oakland airport, which wasn't initially included, but you know, understanding that the facility itself is a really big source on top of all the mobile source pollution. So yeah, the Oakland airport, it's currently trying to expand and it's a really large source of various emissions, toxics, PM, greenhouse gases. And yeah, because of all that, they have a whole bunch of compounding negative health effects from lead poisoning to asthma to stroke to heart disease. And ultimately, the improvement we want to see is no matter what, increased health metrics across the board for the whole community and especially Deep East Oakland. So yeah.
Great, Michaela. Thank you so much for sharing. I think we have room for one more. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure we get you guys out of here on time. But Mr. Charles, did you want to share for illegal dumping?
Yes, so ours was illegal dumping, and it focused around solid waste that turns into mold, that impacts the health concerns of our community members. We also focused on the workforce development aspect of it, where our people would be able to be paid to clean up these areas and also be trained in being able to learn the medical data training that they would have to from local CBOs doing the work so that we can begin to track people's health care visits with highly impacted areas. And so it ended up being the solution looking like local community CBOs working in conjunction with healthcare experts who don't have time to do that work to train our people to do it, and we can create a workforce out of those two things.
Great, thank you, Mr. Charles. I don't know if we have time for public health and community wellness. We are only one more minute away from the meeting ending. So did anyone want to report out from that group?
This is Tram with Public Health. I took notes so I could very quickly, we talked about the concern with outdoor air quality and what we know of factors like redlining and the location of polluting businesses and the freeway traffic and leading to consequences such as people dying at higher rates in our neighborhoods there, asthma, other diseases like heart disease, cancer. And what is the solution we talked about? What are ways to move polluting businesses further away, specific rules to keep them away from schools, families, and housing, and also addressing the trash and abandoned cars, and also solutions that in the immediate term can save people's lives.
Great, thank you, Tram. Sorry, yeah, if we did, Cynthia, if you wanted to do the report out for our group, really quick, which was transportation and mobile sources.
Yeah, so we also had the airport, but since someone already reported on that, I'm going to talk about the concern of abandoned cars or cars not owned by residents. What do we know? They take up too much space. They are literally lit on fire, and there's a backlog of 311 complaints. What is one of the consequences? Increasing pollution from harmful chemical burnings. We were not able to complete this, but wanted to make sure it got brought up since abandoned vehicles is a hot topic for our group. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia, and I'll pass it off to Ayana to close us out.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. Thank you guys for being here. Remember, like all of these.
Ayana.
Before we go, I just wanted to say Happy New Year, you guys. Thank you for everything, and we'll see you next month. I want to go ahead and pass it over to Charles.
Thank you, because they had just muted me. And I just wanted to say that we have some feelings here in this space. And regardless of the time and whether it's the right place for how people feel, people who getting paid, there's community members that have some feelings. And we need to start respecting how community members feel first, instead of getting through these presentations and getting out on time, because that's how we build trust with each other. And right now, that's not happening, because we're not being respected. Everything is on the agency's timeline. This is about people and where we fit into this process, and if we even fit into this process as it exists. And we need to share that time, staff, to keep people online if they have questions and things they want to speak about.
Well, you guys, thank you. We want to thank y'all. Our next steps. Do we have those? Can somebody make that shareable? Well, I wish you guys a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
I will be hosting my own Zoom meeting to discuss the email that was sent out to everyone. And so anyone who would like to be at that Zoom meeting, I will be sending out an invite, and please let me know if you would like to be there.
Well, call me, Charles. Call
Okay,
me.
also, are all the jam boards going to be sent to everybody? Because I have some for a different group.
We can send those links out as follow-up, and just want to say, you know, I think someone from Just Cities put the link to the evaluation. And so district staff are open to hearing how folks feel and how we can improve upon these meetings. We, you know, do want to make some space for making these meetings really meet your needs. And so, Michaela, thanks for mentioning that in the chat, that we could follow up in a co-chairs meeting to look closer at that. So please do fill out that evaluation. We want to hear from you. Thank you all.
Thank you. See you next meeting, which is Thursday, March 14th, 2024. See y'all there.
All right. Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.